and welcome to my channel. Rebecca Pebble here, reporting for duty. Today is a very impromptu video. I got a request for ISTPs. I said I would think about it. Honestly, haven't thought about it too much, but I feel confident enough to just delve right in. So, it's interesting. ISTPs and ENFJs. So I'm coming from an ENFJ perspective. Again, to be completely honest, I think the personality typing is more archetypes and ego. So please keep that in mind. That there's much more depth, layers. It's way more convoluted than just this black and white. You're an ISTP. I'm an ENFJ. This is how we will relate. Amen. No. There's so many more complexities, like nature versus nurture, hobbies, values. It's just personality. To me, personality, which is, as much as it fascinates me, I love it. It's what I focus on my channel for the most part, aside from personal development and just random topics that interest me. Although I love it, I also respect and understand that it's just one piece of the puzzle that we call a human being. It's not the whole puzzle. So please keep that in mind. But if you just on the surface look at our letters, we are complete opposites on all four of our letters, right? The E and the I, the S and the N, the T and the F, the P and the J. So completely conflicting, which I pulled up my socionics, which I refer to socionics from time to time, but I'm definitely not as learned as I am in, say, MBTI or the functions or Jungian psychology or even objective personality. Socionics is interesting to me, but it doesn't resonate as well as some of the other systems, so I don't pull from it as often, but I still respect it very much. But I'm looking at it, says we're conflicting types, which is interesting to me. Because our top four functions are essentially just flipped. So my strength is your weakness and vice versa. So I think there's two ISTPs in my life that have stood out that are giving me this framework, and I'm sure I've met many others. But my brother, and then basically the leader of our I want to say improv group, because I know for my INTP video I was part of a group that she was the leader. This is another improv group I was a part of where I had an ISTP leader. So I kind of got to see how he worked in a creative setting, which is interesting. So I'm gonna draw from those two personalities. So I guess I could start with first impressions. When I think of ISTPs, I think of very intelligent individuals who have tinkering minds. I know they call you the mechanics, but it's absolutely true, at least in my experience. You are the kind that will pull things apart only to put them back together. And I know my brother did that a lot growing up with Legos, with computers. It was always this engineer mind of, how does this system work and how do I make it better, and I want to understand it, which is very interesting to me because I don't see things that way at all, which I guess explains that our functions are completely flipped. And I will say I think there's a great respect between our types, because I notice you guys see where I'm strong and you're weak, and you respect it. You really do. And vice versa. I see that, oh, okay, I respect where you're coming from because I don't have that skill. And so it's, in a way, it's a beautiful partnership of covering each other's weaknesses. So thank you for that, ISTPs. I love that you're able to see things, you're able to sort of extract the emotion from a situation and see it from a more very logical perspective and help me to see that and understand. Something my brother does is I'll say a word and it's not the precise word, and he'll correct me. He'll say, oh, you meant this, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, I meant that. And it's, I think because his TI is so much higher on his function stack, so he's very much into the accuracy of what's being portrayed or said, which I appreciate, but also I'm thinking, well, you got the gist of it, right? So that's an interesting dynamic. Whereas, well, in social settings, I see him sometimes where even his wife, oh, I'm not getting too personal here, she'll be upset. And I'm thinking, obviously she's upset, you need to comfort her. And he'll be so oblivious, just like, everything's cool, everything's good. I'm like, my Effie is freaking out, like, you need to comfort her, she's not okay. And so I think sometimes when I clue him into, hey, you might want to check in on her. He's like, oh, okay, really? Yeah. I was like, yeah. And I think he appreciates that sometimes. I hope, at least. I'm not trying to step on any feet there. So it's interesting that it is. I see where sometimes if I spend too much time with my brother, we can get on each other's nerves. And I think it's because there's that dichotomy of he's very much focused on accuracy and systems and logic, and I'm just very much focused on harmony and feelings and things that aren't so concrete that I don't want to take apart and put together. I mean, I do love analyzing this stuff, so in a way I am, but not to that degree. But we get along like gangbusters. I mean, when it comes to topics that we're interested in, like music, my brother constantly shares stuff with me, and I share stuff with him, and it's really fun when we find music that we both enjoy. We really get a kick out of analyzing it in our own way, so that's really fun. And when I think of the other ISTP in my life, it was interesting because he was more in a coaching role of grooming improvisers to become professional improvisers. And so he's a teacher, essentially. And I noticed the way he approached improv, which I'm assuming is how he would approach most things, is very much in an analytical, critical eye that I thought, okay, well, I appreciate the criticism, but for me, I almost need a little something positive to hang my hat on to say, okay, I don't completely suck at this. Whereas I don't think that even crossed his mind of I'm being too critical, I'm not giving enough positive feedback. Which I could tell the group morale was just sort of waning because there was no FE. It was just all TI and I guess because it would be what? TI, if it's flipped, TISE, NI. So he was, and he might have been a jumper because I saw a lot of TI, NI. Of like, this is why your scene was bad. This is why nobody would enjoy this scene as an audience member. It was just a lot of that, which, not knocking on him, but I think that was very much an ISTP way of approaching things. So I would love to hear from an ISTP as to when you're giving criticism, because my brother does that too sometimes. He'll just be very critical, and I don't think he hedges it with any sort of emotional warmth. So it comes across very cutting, slightly cutting almost, of this is what you could do better. It's like, okay, well, did I do anything right? And I think that's where my FE comes in, because the FE is all about, I want to let the person as a human being know you're valuable, your art is valuable, or whatever you're bringing to the table is valuable, but here's what we could do to improve it. Whereas I think they're not so focused on that. So that was kind of hard in a way. But it's funny because I knew his type. I could take it with a grain of salt and go, well, I understand why he's teaching us in this manner. I also think it's interesting the way they dress And this is why I originally thought my brother was an INTP, and then when I saw them dressing similarly, and then I read something, is on Reddit or something, about how ISTPs are very much more like comfortable, laid back dressers. I thought it was interesting that they very much wore similar clothing. The two ISTPs that were prominent in my life at the time. So yeah, those are my main thoughts about ISTPs. I think you guys are very intelligent. I think you have wonderful contributions to make to the world, and I love that you're able to see things and break it apart only to put it back together in a more, I don't know if efficient's the right word, because that seems more TE, but more logical, more streamlined, I don't know, in a better fashion. But if you know any ISTPs, or if you are an ISTP, please tell me more about your type, because I don't know as many as I do other types. So it would be interesting to hear from you and what you think. Yeah, and again, that's my 2 cents. Again, not as much experience as I would like with the type. I would love to meet more ISTPs. You seem like wonderful people. And hopefully we will continue to challenge each other to grow. And in a way, I think that's what our 2 types do, is we're sort of iron sharpening iron, because we are flipped in our functions. It is easy for us to challenge each other, but also to respect one another and help each other grow. And that's a beautiful thing. So, thank you so much for watching, especially if you're at this part at the end. I really appreciate it. I hope all is well for you. I'm very, very grateful for your viewership, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, wherever in the world you might be. The internet's so cool that we can do this. All right, stay weird, my friends. Bye.
Hello? Yeah?